Good afternoon. Thank you for being with me today. We want to bring you up to date on a very tragic event that occurred on Monday afternoon. And I want to tell you clearly and objectively this horrible event that occurred never should have happened. And you'll understand why I say that as we go through the set of circumstances. So it's Monday afternoon after work, and Charles Petticourt and his girlfriend, who we're not naming for two reasons. One, she's a witness to a murder, or a homicide, not a murder, a homicide. And two, she's also she's protected by several different areas of the law. So when I talk about the girlfriend throughout this session today, you will understand why we talk about this homicide and only the girlfriend. But Charles Petticourt and his girlfriend come home from work on Monday afternoon, and they decide they'll walk down to the Dollar General to pick up some stuff. They frequently walk through their neighborhood in the afternoon. The Dollar General is probably 3 or 4 blocks away. As they're walking east on 3rd Street Southwest in Fort Meade, this pit bull comes out of the yard, and it's 7 to 10 months old, and at first they're a little leery of, is this pit bull dangerous or not? And they soon figure out that the dog is friendly and not aggressive. As they continue to walk east, the dog starts to follow them. And as they get close to Highway 17, which is a 4-lane divided highway, they're trying to shoo the dog back. The dog doesn't have any collar, no identifiers. It just wanders out of a yard and starts to follow them down the road. They're unsuccessful in deterring the dog from following them to the Dollar General. They go into the Dollar General store to shop. When they return from the Dollar General, the dog's gone. They actually circle the block to walk home. So they walk back home, and when they get to the house, a few minutes later, a person shows up that we now know is named Calvin Johnson. He knocks on the door, says, "Have you seen a dog that followed some people down the road?" The female says, no, I don't know what you're talking about. So he goes across the street to ask another neighbor. And she, the female, and Charles, the girlfriend, get to talking. They go, I bet they're talking about that dog that followed us to the Dollar General. So they actually come back out of the house and go to Charles and said, "Hey, you might be talking about the dog that followed us to Dollar General on Highway 17. And we went into shopping. When we came out, the dog wasn't there anymore." Calvin immediately became irate and said, "You should have brought the dog home." And they said, "Look, we don't know who you are. We didn't know who the dog was. We didn't know the dog belonged to you. We don't know who to bring the dog home to." So he was in a vehicle, and he got mad, and he sped off in a hurry, and he was really mad. They went in the house and talked about it, and a few minutes later, another knock at the door. When the female, the girlfriend, opened the door, Charles was there. They stepped out onto their front porch. They were directly in front of their front door, on their front porch, and the girlfriend closed the door behind them. And Charles now they think he just wants to say, "Well, when's the last place you saw my dog?" And he just is angry and is all over them, screaming and hollering and cussing. "You can't steal people's dog. Give me my dog." And during this period of time, the girlfriend starts to call 911, and you'll hear the 911 tape of how animated this conversation is. So he's cussing them and threatening them, And Calvin's standing directly in front of Charles. The girlfriend standing behind Charles. Tyree, who is deceased, is standing to the right. And as this screaming and hollering escalates, and the female, the girlfriend, is screaming, "We didn't touch your dog. We don't have your dog. We don't know anything about your dog." A third subject comes up and flanks to the left, and now they're surrounded by three people. The third one's name is Edward. They are within just close proximity, within feet up under the front porch overhang, and it becomes more animated. Charles puts his hands underneath his shirt and tells the people, "You get off my porch. I've got a gun." The witness, then it's reported to us that Tyree pats his pants and says, "That's all right, dog. I got one too." And Calvin, during the middle of all this screaming and hollering, says, "I don't care about your bleeping gun. I'm going to kick your butt." But he uses other terminology. And they start to advance. And this is all happening very quickly. At that point in time, Charles pulls the gun out as they're advancing and threatening. And as it's described by the witnesses, there were between 3 and 5 people standing on the porch, 3 directly surrounding the girlfriend and Charles. 2 get out of a car, and there's another 1 person in the road, so there's a total of 8. And as they make this last advance, Charles shoots. And by his statement to us, "I shot 6 times. I shot 2 in front of me, 2 to the right, and 2 to the left." At that time, everyone scattered. Tyree ran through the next yard and around the corner where he fell. Calvin and Edward ran around a car and went down in the front yard. They're still on 911, send help, send help. The dispatcher's telling them stay in the house, don't go outside. And of course, EMS and deputies arrive, and the investigation's underway. We talked to several witnesses. All of the witnesses are basically consistent in the story, whether it's the witnesses that obviously are more favorable to these 3 individuals who are up on the front porch, or whether they're neutral witnesses that report what happened. Everybody tells basically the same story, that there is an argument that escalates on the front porch. But we want to focus on a couple of witnesses. One said, "I heard Calvin," as we know his name now, they didn't know their identities then, "so I don't care about your gun, I'm going to whip your butt," using other words. Witnesses said the homeowners were surrounded, and that with all of this hostile action and words and threats, were approaching Charles and the girlfriend when Charles shot. One witness said, "I know what a mob looks like when a stampede's about to occur," and they were about to get stampeded. "And if I was them, I would have been scared." Another witness said he saw Calvin lunge toward the homeowner, who appeared to be very scared and saw the shots. Here's what we know. Calvin, who was standing directly in front, is shot twice in the chest, and he is in very critical condition at the hospital. Tyree, who was standing to the right, was shot once on the left side of the body, and he's deceased in the next yard over. He runs and falls. Edward is shot in the right side of the body, and he is in significantly critical condition at the hospital. This event should have never happened. If Calvin thought that these people had stolen their dog, he simply, when they had the first conversation and he went away mad, he simply had to pick the phone up and said, "I think somebody stole my dog." So now we're doing this massive investigation on this horrible event with one young man dead and two clinging to life, barely, over a dog. And the girlfriend and Charles continue to tell us throughout the different witness interviews, we don't know what they're talking about. We didn't take their dog. We saw the dog follow us to the Dollar General. So as Paul Harvey would say, the rest of the story. Princess, the pit bull, is between 7 and 12 months old. And she'd gotten off of her collar and was wandering around at the house. And in fact, by the testimony of the shooter, Charles, and his girlfriend, followed them, despite them trying to shoo the dog back over to the Dollar General. When they came back, they said the dog was gone. Well, the dog was gone for good reason. We have now found the dog. We found the dog 7.9 miles away. And do you know why it was 7.9 miles away? Because the lady had stopped to shop at the Dollar General, and her 15-year-old son saw the dog running around in the parking lot without any tags, without any identifiers, and he wanted a dog. So he picked it up, put it in the car, and they went home. I'm not sure Mom's being totally truthful with us, because she said she didn't realize the dog was there until the next day, but be that as it was, the next day she discovers the dog, according to the lady who has the dog, 7.9 miles away, saying, "My 15-year-old son picked this dog up running around in the parking lot of the Dollar General, brought it home. I'd already told him he couldn't have another dog, so she called animal control. We went and picked the dog up on Tuesday afternoon, just before 5 p.m. From all the evidence and witness statements available to us, it is exactly as Charles and the girlfriend said. They didn't have the dog. They never had the dog. The dog followed them to the store. 15-year-old kid picks the dog up, puts it in the car. They take it 7.9 miles home. We have one young man that's dead and two that are just barely clinging to life in critical condition at the hospital. All over Calvin thinking they took his dog. I can't think of a more horrible situation. So here's what we're going to do at this point in the investigation with the dog. Normal protocol is the dog's running at large, so you cite the homeowner for that. You cite them for not having their county tags, and then you see if they don't have their shots, you cite them for that. And then they have to pay for the dog to be either spayed or neutered, because no animal is released from animal control custody according to law without being spayed or neutered. I have authorized that they waive all the fees and turn this dog over once it's appropriately processed and we screened it medically to Calvin's mother. She didn't have anything to do with it. We certainly don't need to keep this pit bull in custody. And we don't want Calvin's mother, because no matter what Calvin's liability in this is, it's certainly not her fault that Calvin allowed the dog to run at large. So that will happen in the next few days. We have the dog here if y'all want some photographs of it. Are there any questions?
So is Charles going to be charged? Does it sound like it?
We will turn the investigation over to the state attorney's office, and they will make the final determination. We still have to dot the I's and cross the T's on the reports and get back the evidence. But every bit of the information we possess at this point in the investigation clearly indicates to us that Charles was defending himself and his girlfriend underneath the front porch of his house from a significant and imminent threat, as it's been told to us. However, the investigation's not over. There may be, depending on the status of the investigation, criminal liability for Calvin because Tyree died. And Calvin instigated the event that caused Tyree's death. But once again, Calvin is in very critical condition at the hospital. The investigation is still underway, but all of the information and independent witnesses, and we have several independent witnesses that all corroborate what the girlfriend and what Charles told us just prior to and during the shooting.
Did Calvin have a gun?
We didn't find any gun on Calvin when we arrived. We didn't find a gun on Tyree when we arrived. The only gun that we know of is the one that Charles had, and it was a 9mm handgun.
Does Calvin have any prior?
I don't know what Calvin's criminal history is. I think he has some priors. But it's a sad situation, because at the end of the day, we could very well have 3 dead young men, and we already have 1 dead young man, over the threat of bodily harm, over the allegation of taking a dog which didn't occur. Now, hindsight's always 20/20, but after they looked at him the first time and didn't know his name, but said, look, the dog followed us to the store. We didn't touch the dog. We don't have the dog. We tried to shoo the dog back from going across Highway 17. If he'd called us the next afternoon, we'd gotten the dog back. When Mom called and said, my 15-year-old son picked this dog up at the store. So right now, Calvin wouldn't be clinging to life, Tyree wouldn't be dead, and Edward wouldn't be clinging to life, and Charles Petticourt and his girlfriend would not have their life wrecked as well over something that should have never happened, and a set of allegations that clearly, from all the information we possess at this point, show that they never had anything to do with the dog being gone. Charles didn't have it secure at his home. It wandered, and a 15-year-old kid picked it up.
Sheriff, have you received any, or do you know if there were any reports of Princess escaping in the past? Is this the only time that this situation has happened?
You know, quite frankly, our focus has really not been on anything other than the death investigation, except that we wanted to find Princess, and we have. I don't know that there's any history at Animal Control of Princess getting away in the past, but we also have a witness that knew Princess was at large because this witness said, well, I petted him in the front yard before I went into the house that day. So had they picked the dog up and secured it, it wouldn't have happened. None of this should have happened.
Sheriff, if Calvin was the one advancing, why did the homeowners tell you he felt the need to also shoot Tyree and Edward?
All of them were advancing. All of them were advancing on them.
Was the gun owned legally? Did he have every?
Yes. He had the legal right to possess the gun. As I understand, he's also a military veteran, served overseas during the war.
Do you know if he has a criminal background?
He does not have any felony charges. I think he might have a misdemeanor charge, but of DUI or something like that. But by and large, no. And the neighbors say that they're good neighbors, that they're not problem people in the neighborhood, that they're good neighbors. That's what's stunning about this. You've got a group of people that heretofore have not been a problem at all. And because Calvin just like spun off out of control, he got his buddy killed, he may die, his other buddy may die. They didn't take the dog. And they come not only to his yard, but they're up under his porch and surrounded him with 8 people there and 3 to 5 on the porch, and 3 of them encircling them with all kinds of threats. And when you hear the 911 tape, you'll hear the intensity of the threats that were occurring.
Sheriff, can you talk about how close in proximity Charles and the guy you shot lived?
I can tell you that it was told to me to be arm's length, that they were all up under the porch close, and then they advanced on him and were literally on top of him when he shot.
But did he live in the neighborhood?
Oh, and as far as the neighborhood, yes. Where this shooting occurred at Charles' house was 413 3rd Street, and Calvin lived at 121 3rd Street, so they were, 3 blocks apart?
Did they know each other?
Not at all. Didn't know each other. And that's why during the initial conversation when he said, well, when my dog followed you, you should have brought it home. And they went, we don't know you. We don't know the dog. We didn't know to bring the dog to you. We don't know anything about what you're talking about other than the dog followed us. We tried to shoo it back, and it followed us. And when we came out from shopping, the dog was gone. And the dog was gone because this 15-year-old kid picked it up, took it home with him.
Does this fall under stand your ground, or is it homeowner self-defense, or is that all the same?
I think it's what the investigation shows. This is a death investigation, a homicide. And homicide means that someone dies at the hands of another. But a homicide investigation does not mean that you've committed murder. That's why I went out of the way to correct that. So this is a death investigation where Tyree died at the hands of the other. And you have the castle doctrine, and then you have the stand your ground doctrine. And I'm not speaking in context of this case. Let me speak in context of the law. When they stood underneath his porch, they were within the confines of his home. So take your choice, whether it's the castle doctrine or stand your ground. What this is self-defense when he feared for his life and his girlfriend, and she confirmed that. He confirmed that in statements to us, and independent witnesses confirmed that if I was there, I would have been scared too. And even, if you will, their witnesses, which obviously give you different different positions in their witness statement, all still agree on the basic facts. There was a big, heated argument on the front porch before the shooting occurred. And you'll hear it. You will hear him say, "Back up." And you'll hear Calvin say, "I don't care about your gun." And then you'll hear other stuff that you can't discern because of the angst and the unbelievable agitation and heated conversation that was occurring.
Do you have any visuals of each person, as far as each person and who is what? Because, I mean, some of us may be new to this, so I don't know as far as the names, and since it's 3 people.
Sure. Our PIOs will get all that for you. Yes, sir. We'll be glad to do it. Anything else? Okay. Thank you very much.